Hey, Fellowship Memphis. Welcome to the latest at Fellowship Memphis. This podcast, we're going to focus on our Fellowship student ministry, which we're really excited about. You might hear us call that FSM. That is short for our Fellowship student ministry. We have something very unique for fifth graders that I want you to hear about, and then our 6th through 8th graders make up our middle school part of FSM, and then 9th through 12th graders are our high school students. And so when we talk about student ministry, we're not talking college students. That's another podcast for another day and another group. This is our fifth graders, our middle school students, and our high school students. So I'm excited to share this podcast with Brian Crenshaw, who's been a part of leadership in our student ministry for a long, long time, part of Fellowship Memphis for a long, long time, he and his wife, Erin. And then Josh Weiss is joining us as well, who's been around Fellowship for many years, but we're asking him this year to put Fellowship student ministry on his plate as well. You may have heard an earlier podcast where we introduced Claude Acho, who is our new Collierville Outpost pastor. So Josh is handing the reins to Claude, and we are asking him to step into FSM and bring his leadership as well. So we're going to talk today about an expanded team and then a new strategy, trying some new strategies this year, which I can't wait for you to hear about, and then some of the future things that we're looking at and researching and developing and all that good stuff. So welcome, Brian and Josh. Brian, why don't you just kind of give us a running start. How'd the summer go? Talk to us a little bit about camp and kind of where we are, kind of launching into the fall.
Sure. Thanks, JB. I've told many that this is probably the best summer we've had as I reflect back on it. Tons of fun, and that's a piece of what we measure, but I think it's the most fruitful summer we've had. Just seeing the growth in some of the students, seeing an amazing camp that launched our summer, and then just our weekly mixes and socials that really felt like we've seen a new crop of students that have grown up in the ministry through Fellowship Kids that are now hitting late middle school, high school, seeing a new surge of students coming up in 6th grade that have really bonded this summer. So yeah, it's been an amazing summer. Really excited about what that launches us into as far as the fall. But yeah, as far as the past summers, I think they've all been excellent, but this one I feel like stands out in a lot of ways just because of the connectivity and really some of the fruit that was coming out of camp and some of our socials this summer. So yeah, appreciate people that invested, have served with us, got their kids to different things, and made those sacrifices. So yeah, it's been an incredible time, and we're appreciative of the families that jumped in with us to make that happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've got a unique perspective because I kind of hear the plans and everything being worked on up here, and then I've also got a 13-year-old who is experiencing all that, so I kind of get to hear from her when I pick her up kind of what all she's done and what she's been involved with. So she would definitely talk about how awesome a summer it was at FSM. Well, Josh, let me hear from you. Obviously, this is a new assignment. We've asked you to, beginning at the beginning of the summer, going to camp, getting involved this summer, and then hopefully in the next couple of weeks being able to put even more of your leadership onto the FSM team. How have you experienced FSM this summer? And then also, I know you've done some work recently, kind of tell us where we are when it comes to how many students are involved, schools, kind of what we're starting with this fall.
Yeah, I'm really excited to jump in with FSM. My wife, Allison, always jokes with me that I'm still a kid at heart and run around like a big kid, and we'll dress up in costumes and be a mascot all the time is the running joke. So student ministry is the perfect place for me to plug in. And so, yeah, it's just cool to see. Since getting to be a part of it, I guess as soon as I started at Fellowship, I jumped in with Brian and the team early on and got to lead some D groups, and then had a couple years here at Fellowship where I was kind of investing in some other ways. And so it's fun to be back with FSM, fun to be back with the students that I kind of got to invest in back in the day. I started with 6th grade boys, and one of them is now, most of them are seniors now, which is crazy just to see the ways that they've grown, the relationships that we have. So it's just cool to be kind of back on the FSM team and in the fold. Logistically, I guess when we look at FSM, I know Brian did some great work last week and just kind of recodified our list of students. And so we're looking at about 130 students that we would say are regularly involved with FSM. And then you kind of multiply that out and look at the broader scope of our church that leans really young, and you see a huge crop of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and all of a sudden you start kind of doing the math and putting those numbers together. And if our student ministry is 130 people, 130 kids now, it could be close to, assuming those kids stay at fellowship and we can keep kids involved, it could be close to 200, 250 students here in just a couple years. And so excited to be a part of a team in such a growing ministry, and excited to think about how to scale the teams and systems that we have now to reach and to be able to absorb really that massive hit of students that's coming over the next few years.
Yeah, we definitely see the watermelon in the hose, proverbial watermelon in the hose. Well, we started late last fall, really, and Brian led a lot of this, beginning a strategic process to really assess FSM. If we're celebrating 15 years this fall, we've probably had some form of functioning student ministry for 11 or 12 of those years. Really hit our stride the last 6 or 7 years, and all that we've done, I've always said I'm super proud of the values that have upheld FSM. Really proud of the work we've done with students. But as we looked up and looked ahead, we weren't sure what we had was scalable or sustainable for one church and 4 locations, and the students spread all across 60 or 70 different schools. So we began a strategic planning process, got parents involved, volunteers involved, students involved, staff involved. And out of that, knew the first step we needed to take in order to make what we're doing scalable and sustainable, and for a student in Collierville to be able to have a similar experience to a student downtown in East Memphis and Germantown, and to really reach into the student population in those areas. We needed to broaden our staff. We just needed more staff, more leadership focused on our students. And so really excited to share with you some new teammates, and I want these guys to tell you about some of those new teammates. The second piece of that we'll talk about in a minute was then, in light of a new team, what new programming can we try? This is a real beta test year for a new student ministry strategy, and so I want you to hear a little bit about that. And then the final piece of this will be facility-wise, what do we need to think about? We'll start asking that question over the fall and spring, and is facilities a place maybe we need to find and create, buy, long-term lease something, keep borrowing? We'll get all those questions answered, Lord willing, over the next 6 or 9 months. But let's start with what's already done, or at least most of it, which is an enhanced team. And so we'd love for you guys to talk about those new teammates, and then specifically why each of them, why you're excited about them, or if they've already been with us for 3 or 4 months, the value they're adding to our team.
And Josh can chime in on this too. I think overarching, we look at a grid of people who's on our team. And we look at place, where do we meet, which is a reality, and it may be more of a reality for us than some churches since we're multi-site. And then we look at the programmatic things that we do. So those 3 Ps kind of run us through a grid. And when you think about people, that's our highest priority, that we see our staff as portable sanctuaries, or in some ways chaplains that go and minister out in the community and go to students. And so students coming to us is part of what we do, but it's not our main strategy. So we felt like increasing our staff was a huge strategic piece coming out of our winter strategic plan. And so, part of that was identifying, obviously Josh, he's been with us for a while. As a intern and volunteer leader, and so that just made a lot of sense for him and his gifting, and he knows a lot of the students. And then I'll talk about the Mastrianos, and then Josh can chime in on Helica and Wadzi. But the Mastrianos, Aaron and I have known Hannah and Andrew, a.k.a. Moss, for a long time, and got to be involved with them as friends, see them date, get married, be part of their premarital counseling, and just always felt like they both had a real gift with students. They've been part of our summer camp at times, and I've been recruiting them for a long time. And so it just worked out with Hannah's role. They just had a baby, and She was able to come on part-time as she left her previous job. And so for her and Andrew both to jump in together, I think allows them to serve together as a married couple and be flexible around having a baby. But we just love their character, just their heart for students, their leadership. I tell them both of them could lead our student ministry as a whole. And so just to have a couple like that rowing together is just amazing. So I'm really excited about you all getting to know the Mastrianos and really seeing what we've seen for years in them.
And they're coming on part-time with us, and so as he said, we got a mom at home with a new baby, and I know Andrew's at collegiate school and teaches there and is the athletic director there, and so we love that community involvement and super excited about their maturity and their leadership joining Brian and Josh and Shelley, and so yeah, couldn't be more excited about those two. Josh, why don't you tell us more about Angelica and kind of other positions we're looking to fill?
Yeah, Angelica is awesome. From the very first conversation that I had with her, just was blown away by the leader that she is, the giftings that she has, kind of who God has made her to be. She just recently graduated from Visible Music College with a worship leading degree, and so has that skill set, obviously, that we can tap into. But one of the quirkiest, most awesome things about Angelica's story is her dad. So she's originally from Puerto Rico, grew up in Texas, and her dad was a traveling evangelistic clown. Professional clown throughout Central and South America. And so Angelica was homeschooled through most of middle school and high school as her family traveled all throughout Latin America working with her dad. And so she's got this heart for kids, this heart for students. Worked with students at her home church back in Texas as well before kind of spending some time in Memphis and at Visible. And so it's just cool to hear her story. She was pursuing a nursing degree before coming to Visible, and the way she tells the story is she was just kind of taking the classes and never thought to ask God what God wanted from her life. And she stopped and just said, God, what do you want? And through a crazy series of events ended up in Memphis and has now ended up on our team at Fellowship Memphis, and just brings an energy, a flavor, a fun, just spirit. I think her first week, she got thrown to the wolves. Yeah. So Angelica's first week on staff at Fellowship Memphis was Laguna FSM camp, and she jumped in like a champ to see her just with the kids, and just the amount of energy and fun and leadership that she brings, maturity. It's just, I love getting to work with her every day. So selfishly, even if it wasn't about the kids, I just love getting to be on the same team as her. And so, so glad she gets to invest in the kids. Wadzi Shikungwa has been one of our residents here at Fellowship, originally from Zimbabwe. And she's kind of, Wadzi's passionate about counseling, passionate. She's doing her master's in counseling at Harding School of Theology, and just is really passionate about deep personal relationships. Wadzi's incredibly empathetic and just can feel with people, unlike few people I've ever met. And so to think about her walking alongside girls in our church and bringing just a sweet spirit and excitement, everything about her, a warmth that she carries and who she is, just feels really, really good on our team. And then, to your point, we're still looking to fill a couple roles. And so we've got some people on our radar, some people in mind that we're, hoping to pursue. But I can see us definitely looking at another male and another female, a guy and a girl to come jump on our team and provide some more leadership for us here. And so, we're just in the process of exploring that and seeing what God might do and who God might bring.
Yeah, well, that, is just significant, I believe, going from Brian and Shelley, both done a great job and continue to do a great job. And Wadzi and Angelica really complement, in my opinion, Shelley in a lot of ways. It brings a lot of leadership, a lot of organization to our student ministry and to our staff team. And to go from at one point 3 full-time staff when Jackie was here to 2 full-time staff to now 4 or 5 people with their full-time focus along with a couple of part-time people, that just gives us the capacity now to do student ministry incredibly well, but then also create some capacity for us to be able to add students and that not be a problem, and be able to relationally pursue them and organizationally and structurally have room to grow and to be able to put some of our staff maybe in an eastern location, some of our staff in a western location, and even do that simultaneously, and it be a well-staffed, well-run night. And so let's transition a little bit. Obviously, this kind of fit hand in glove with some of our Sunday night strategy, and so let's talk a little bit about the calendar's different this year than it was last year. That's by design. We want to learn a lot of lessons. But yeah, why don't you walk through kind of what we're doing on Sunday nights and how our first Sunday night went. Here we are, 24 hours removed from our first Sunday night, and let's talk about how the calendar is a little different in some sense, but not that different in another sense.
Yeah, I think I looked over the 13 years of doing student ministry, and there's been 4 or 5 big shifts that all require some change and sacrifice, but have yielded big growth. And I think a lot of the students that are here today are here because someone made some sacrifice, put in some strategic investment. And so I think we're in that season now where we really wanted to see students across the whole geographic area reached, and just felt like that was difficult to do with our current meeting space here at the fellowship offices near the U of M, and that just makes it difficult for kids that live in North Mississippi or out east in Carterville, maybe further out. And so we've explored for some time just the idea of, do we need another room, another building, another place out east, and what that would look like to start to multiply our ministry to where we have 2 consecutive ministries going on at the same time, at east and west expression of that. And really, before going out and leasing something, buying something, this idea of utilizing our 2 outposts made a lot of sense. And it's an exciting time. I think we even saw the fruit of that this past Sunday, where we had some new students from Carterville that have not been involved at this point. And so, it's a change in what we're doing as far as Sunday nights. In some ways, our group is divided into East and West, but we feel like a couple of the big questions that come up in that revolve around, we're not going to see all of the youth together in one night. And our answer to that is that we really wanted to increase our socials. And so, where everybody's together. And so I think when you really look at things on paper, everybody's going to be together as much, but it also gives us a smaller expression on a Sunday night where you're getting to know kids that live in your geographic area. It allows kids more ease in coming, and I think it'll give us some ways to grow. I think we'll look up in a couple years and a ton of students that would not even be at our church are there because of that. So that gets me excited. Just to offer something geographically closer to where people live, and start those steps towards decentralizing. The other piece to that is D group. And so we had a rhythm last year where we'd have our D groups or our small groups a couple times a month, and then off weeks would have our mix. And so we felt like D group was great. It served us well for a lot of years, but we felt like we needed to put new skin on that and look at it in a different light. And the really D group offered a couple of things that we thought could be better. The social piece was okay within D groups. We thought we would get better social connection on a Sunday night mix, and then the depth of D group was pretty good, but we thought we would get better depth as we moved to a new model of small groups. And so now a student that may have been involved last year with 8-10 students in a D group now may be in a group with 1 or 2 other kids. And so I think that gives us the best of both that D group gave us, kind of a middle ground of. It gives us better connectivity, better depth. allows us to reach more geographically. So I think the new model, we're trying it, we're 1 week in, but all, returns from that first week were great. And so I think it's going to be a good model for us. I think it allows us to do some things unique with base camp, which I'd love to talk about in a minute. And also just looking at even having two fourth graders that aren't in FSM and just what that allows us to do for kids that are that watermelon in the garden hose coming through, that we can prepare them in some unique ways where they did not have something outside of Sundays that now we're able to provide. So I don't see it as we're taking necessarily from FSM, from the 6th through 12th graders. We're enhancing what we're doing. We're reshaping it, reimagining it. But in light of that, we're also thinking through that fourth grader, that third grader that on a lot of Sunday nights was just sitting at home, but just that now they have something that is putting them on a track towards what they're going to experience when they hit 6th through 12th grade.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I experienced Sunday night. So unlike last year where I would take my last year 7th grader to FSM on a Sunday night and kind of leave the rest of my family to take her and then go pick her up, and especially my older boys, once they saw a glimpse of a Nerf war up here at the office, were like, Dad, why can't we stay up there? Like, why are you pulling me away from this? Like, that's all I want to do in life. And compared to this past Sunday night where I took my kids with me, and man, they were starting to go to the gym, meet other elementary school students, even my 5-year-old in a room with other 5-year-olds, and so you can just see the fruit that'll pay over the next 5-10 years where those relationships are already formed. And I believe those 20 Sunday nights will become just such a natural feeder into base camp and then into FSM. And so, yeah, lots of reasons I'm excited about Sunday nights, but that's a big one right there. Well, let's talk a little bit about base camp for a few moments, our ministry to 5th graders, and yeah, tell us more about that.
Yeah, just real quick, it's something that had been brewing for a number of years, just seeing kids needing a transition piece between fellowship kids into student ministry, or between elementary school into middle school. And a lot of churches offer that bridge ministry, and we just felt like it was time, and felt like that should live under the umbrella of FSM, and have really seen 2.5 great years of that. My daughter actually was able to go through that a couple years ago, and just the fruit of base camp has been amazing. I think it helps prepare not only the student for middle school and for FSM, but also the family. It's base camp is for 5th graders, but it's also for the family, for the parents, I should say, that they walk on this 9-month journey together of preparing for the unique season of entering middle school. So it's really about how to transition well. It's a place where we want it to be a huge amount of fun, really focus on connectivity, getting to know other students, but also just a place where we want to build the foundation of doctrine, of answering questions that all students in that stage have, along with parents. How do we talk to our kids about the growth they're going to go through physically, or how do we talk to them about just being tech savvy families? And so we wanted to just pose a lot of those topics to them in that year, let them marinate on that, wrestle with that together while we have a lot of fun and connectivity. So base camp for us runs from about mid-October until April, and that will start up. And so we would love for any families out there that have a 5th grader to jump in with us, and more information will come out about that as we get closer to mid-October after fall break. But we also do something real special at the end of that journey in April. We have a big ceremony where we take them downtown and have a big dinner, celebrate them, give them some strategic, symbolic gifts, and then we go to the Big River crossing and cross over the Mississippi River and pray for them in the middle of that, and kind of symbolizing that journey that they're crossing a bridge into middle school and into teen world. And so that's something we're very excited about. I think it's one of those ministries that, because it's so new, not a lot of people know a lot about. There may be people that want to volunteer with that and jump in, but we would highly recommend 5th graders jumping into that. It's just been a great thing.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It was fun being there last year and being a part of that. And a couple years earlier, my daughter getting to take part in that as well. Something we really value as a church and as a staff and as a team. another massive important piece of FSM is our volunteers. And so we've traditionally had some of the very best and brightest and most committed and most godly, mature people in our church serving our student ministry. So big shout out to them. And if you're listening to this, interested in being a part of volunteering and discipling our teenagers, you don't hesitate to get in touch with Shelly or Josh or Brian or any of our team. Would love to talk to you further about that. And so you can definitely be praying, always praying for our student ministry. I can't think of a time that it's been more challenging to be a teenager. I can't think of a time it's been more challenging to do effective student ministry. When you think about the current pace of our typical family, the current threats against our family, whether that's the dark sides of technology or the insaneness of family calendars and schedules and school schedules and travel schedules and competitive baseball teams and soccer teams and all of that, and trying to pace our families in such a way that we make room for connection and spiritual growth and a chance for them to be a part of a student ministry. And so some of you listening to this have very fond memories of your student ministry, which is fantastic. Just know that building an effective student ministry today is massively different than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Our culture, the pace of life, priorities of families, we're in some sense trying to build a plane as we fly it in the midst of a ever-shifting atmosphere. And but boy, we are constantly trying to learn and take stabs and even be countercultural in some ways to most effectively pour into our students and come along beside you as their primary discipler to help launch them into their years beyond your home, loving God and knowing how to love and serve others. We value students serving in our church, and so please take advantage of that. I love the teenagers that are singing on our worship team. I love it when some of our students take part in teardown setup alongside you. I love it when they're helping take up the offering. And man, we don't design programming for 6th through 12th grade that competes with Sunday morning worship. So we have Sunday school through 5th grade, and then we want those students worshiping with us. We want them beside you in that service, learning to do adult church so that'll become a part of their normal for the rest of their life. Any parting words, Josh? I'd love to hear from both you guys. Your prayer for this year, your hope, what you would want to say to parents as we wind down this podcast.
Yeah, I would echo just, JB, what you said, that as a church, I've seen over the past 13 years of FSM that it's been a church that has really invested in our students, that it's not a church that puts them on the shelf or sits them aside in a corner until they're 22, that it's really a church that invests in them in that season that they're in, that they're not just the church of tomorrow, they're also part of the church of today. I appreciate that, and just really appreciate the heart of what our church is trying to do with a student ministry that's discipleship based, walks alongside parents, that empowers students, that treats them as a part of our body, but also pursues to be multi-ethnic, which I think has been one of the highlights of our ministry throughout, but also multi-site. So anybody that people look at me like I'm crazy when we tell them we're doing multi-site, multi-ethnic, discipleship-based student ministry, and so that's rare on all those fronts. And so to be really doing all those at once requires a lot of investment, a lot of support and prayer. And so I would my parting words would be, please pray for us, and please consider jumping in to be part of that. If you've not been around our students, it's an amazing group, and I think you would come away with a lot of growth from being around them, that they have a lot to offer our body. So yeah, please pray for us. It's amazing stuff going on there. Come check us out if you want to be involved.
Yeah, I would just say, I would echo everything that was said. I would just say, if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have feedback, just tell us. I always tell everybody in our church, if you think something we're doing is awesome and amazing and great, if you want to tell us, that's fine. I'll take it. But if you think something that we're doing you don't understand, you don't know, you're like, you have questions, don't sit in the dark. Just come tell us, come ask us, come say, hey, what's going on? What are we doing? We would love to have those conversations. And so I know myself, Brian, any of our team, we'd love to just have conversations with tons of parents, with tons of students. To talk about the future of student ministry at Fellowship. So excited to see what God does.
Yeah, please hear that. We are love and long for parents to be as involved as they want to be involved. And so some of you really do have strong thoughts and opinions and helpful thoughts and opinions on how we do camp, how we do summers, how we do D groups, how we do mixes. Like, speak up. We love having those conversations. We're constantly forming focus groups, constantly forming strategic planning groups. You can be as involved as you want to be involved. We need that feedback, want that feedback, want very active parents. And so just hear us say that. We don't take that lightly. We really want you shaping how we are investing in your students. And so that's always an open invitation. We pray to have a great year with FSM. You can definitely, if you're not, get a part of our private Facebook group. We do a lot of communications with FSM there. You can follow FSM Student Ministry on Instagram. Keep up there. We put pieces of information obviously on our website and in our weekly email. Download our app if you hadn't done that. Turn the notifications on. Sometimes we send information that way. So lots of ways to stay in touch, and let's pray for our students, pray for our team. Thank God for the new, enhanced, expanded team that He's brought us. Pray that we can learn the lessons we need to learn this year as we're trying some new programming. And then as we begin to ask that facility question, pray for God's wisdom and discernment. Have a great week. God bless. We'll see you soon.